knowledge today. She has asked to do several classes.
Thank you, dear. Okay. I'm not going to stay over here too, aren't I? Which is also real annoying because I like to be near the people. And Sandy did give me a breath mint, so I could be near the people. But anyway, so we started to talk a little bit. You said you're using MailChimp for a month.
Right. We transitioned from Constant Contact.
Oh, you were using.
Which we used for years.
Did you feel comfortable with it? And obviously something changed that you decided to make.
Price.
Yeah, price is a factor, isn't it? Yeah. Have you personally, or maybe people in your office, noticed any change? Or is it user-friendly or anything like that?
Well, actually, I just started setting it up to do a mailing that will go out on Monday.
Oh, okay.
So, and there isn't anybody else in my office.
So it's you.
Yeah.
It's me, myself, and I. There's three people.
So yeah, I mean, it's been pretty pretty user-friendly, not knowing anything about it, to set things up.
And that's really good to hear. And I don't work for MailChimp, and I don't also think that you definitely have to have the MailChimp product. There's so many out there on the market. To me, it's just, I find it to be user-friendly. I've used so many other ones. Also has a free component to it. I mean, totally free, which some of them are free for a month or free for this, and they do, and I will go over that in a second about their cost involved, but even if you end up paying for it, it's not outrageously expensive, and so it's a very affordable product to have for small businesses. And I always, when someone contacts me as a consultant and says, we're thinking about, we want to do this, this is the first product that I recommend to them and train them how to use it. And so you in the back were saying that you had not really pulled the trigger on it yet.
Right, I've set up a couple campaigns, but I've never sent them out because I don't have really a whole lot of emails anyway, because I've not been promoting anything because I never feel ready.
Okay, you're going to get some confidence here to do it right. And what about you, sir?
I've used it for the last 3 years for the Farmer's Market, and just sent my first campaign out for my own farm on Monday.
And?
I got some good responses out of it.
Good.
So I did a Cyber Monday promotion on it.
I have to get on your mailing list. That's great. That's great. And you in the back, I don't think I got a chance to talk to you either.
We use Constant Contact right now, but we're looking for other vendors for information.
Okay, good, good. And so this maybe will help you a little bit make a decision about what you want to do.
Sandy, do you want to go around the room, let everybody introduce themselves?
I think that would be great, because then I would know kind of what company you're representing or what, and as I'm going through my slides or we're talking about things, if I know what you kind of are using it for, I can kind of like say, hey, this might work good for you or not. So go ahead and we'll start over here.
So I'm Diana Blackburn. I'm the director for Round Mountain Southeast Virginia Artisan Network, and we're a nonprofit organization.
And what do you do?
We promote crafts here in Southeast.
Okay, I need to get on your mailing list too. Okay, and go ahead.
I'm Dave McLeish. I'm the owner of Greenland Alpacas in Meadowview, and I'm also a Farmer's Market manager for the Avenue Farmer's Market.
Alpacas.
So,
Definitely need to get on your
I
mailing
use
list.
MailChimp for both.
Okay, maybe you can even interject. If we go along, I'm very informal when I teach, by the way, and I use my hands a lot, so I'm sorry. But if there's something, people who are current users, sorry, and there's something that I talk about or touch on briefly, and you want to interject, please feel free to say, this is what I do, or this works well, or I'm not opposed to that at all. We all learn together, and anybody who's been using it as long as you have, you've probably got some knowledge. Okay, sir.
My name is Fallon Ray. I currently work for KMAT in Food City. I'm doing graphic design and
Okay.
programming, but it has nothing to do. I'm here kind of personally. What I do is custom artwork. Like I can create fantasy scenes and everything through photo manipulation, and what I want to push towards is like having people put like their children riding a dinosaur on top of a rainbow, whatever you can dream up to create, a one-of-a-kind gift for somebody. Imagery-wise, I can kind of do that. And what I want to do is push that I can create whatever you can dream up and work together to make something.
Okay, that's
That
interesting.
separate people's family members and their favorite teams, whatever they want to put in.
This is the gift giving season, in case you didn't know. We want to put Sandy on a dinosaur. I'm going to send you a picture of her. We could have had some fun with that today had I known you were going to be here. We could have done some of that fun stuff, and I really could have had fun with her with it. And I still may end up doing that.
I offered last time I was here a couple weeks ago that maybe I could do one of these for Photoshop specifically, because I've been using Photoshop
Okay.
for so years.
Good to know.
I'm good at it, so.
Okay, good to know. And you,
My name is Caitlin Wagner. I do digital marketing for First Trust.
sorry, she's making me get over. And Kyle?
Kyle Craig, I'm the owner of Computer Solutions here in Abingdon. I'm doing this for the VFW Post. Just getting a newsletter going for the Post here in Abingdon.
And I like that because that's obviously more of a volunteer organization, volunteer capacity, right, Kyle? And so we've got, volunteers, we've got businesses, you've got people who are promoting it for different reasons, and it can be used for that since it is a free platform as well. So thank you, Kyle.
We have free map for Virginia Community Capital, and we use MailChimp, about, let's say, 5,000 on our email list.
You have 5,000?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
have a paid service. I don't personally use it, my marketing manager does, so wanted to learn a little bit more about her world of the tool, and, so she's out saying.
So you got quite a list then.
You do.
And you do have a paid account because you've got 5,000 users. And that's what the paid account is based on, how many end users you have, how many email addresses you have stored in there that you send it to. Do you have a paid account too? So, and you're able to successfully market on a free account still. Okay, so good to know. Yes.
I do have one kind of question for the parking lot, as far as like the opt-in to an email list, like the legality of someone giving you permission to add them to your email list versus you just doing it because you got your business card. So if we could talk about that at some point, because there's some questions.
We will. I've got some slides on that, and I don't have all the answers, but I kind of, I don't know. We'll talk about that in a minute, but and we'll get some feedback from some others who are using it to see. Jennifer, have you used it before?
Yep, I use it.
Okay, so you may be able to add some things to the program as well. And ma'am?
My name's Wendy Wilson. I'm with Life Expressions Photography. It's just a quick promos for my photography.
Great. That's a great use for it.
So I have a lot of emails.
Yeah, it's a great use for it.
School pictures to plug it in for my calendar.
Nice. Ma'am?
Diane Kirkshin, I'm an office manager, Tri-City Security in Bristol. We use security guards throughout the Tri-Cities, so we're just trying to expand our business, get it.
Yeah, I can see that too. It's a good use. And I got a chance to talk to you for a few minutes before class, and your name?
Victoria Fletcher, and I'm an author, but I also have a publishing company for other authors to publish their books.
Nice.
Cindy Fields, and I'm the director of Small Business Development Center. We don't currently use this in the office.
Do you use anything, Cindy? Okay, so you're looking at some options maybe. Hey.
Tanya Triplett, I am Community Development Coordinator for the town of Abingdon, and I sent out my second email blast yesterday using MailChimp. I was forced to do that because I had a
Okay, sorry.
email distribution list that was putting a burden on the town server. So my IT department's very happy, and I'm learning.
Okay, well, Tanya just brought up a really good point, if you don't already know this, that this is a web-based product. So what that means, I'm sorry, Sandy, I'm walking all over the place here. What that means is you don't store this on your server. It's web-based, and it does, IT people usually like it because they don't have the responsibility of keeping track of things. So you log in to MailChimp, and actually they all the ones that I've ever used are not stored on your server. You log into their website with your account, and then you start working away, and it's stored somewhere in the magical cloud, but it's working for you?
Yes.
So far. So before you were actually keeping it on a server, okay, I can't even imagine trying to do that. Okay, good. And you'll be able to help me, some of you who have already used it, we're going to talk about when we get to the analytics part of it. I want some feedback on that too, how you've used your analytics and all. So anyway, MailChimp is a web-based marketing automation platform that allows the user to set up, design, send, and track professional-looking emails to a selected group of people. So one of the other things that I like about it, it's an easy template. You can pick from so many different free templates in there, throw your stuff in there. You can change your templates if you want. So one of the times that I have used it is I had a template for a newsletter. I had a template for promotions. So I would go ahead and set those templates up with the header and your logo, and then when I had a promotion coming up, I would just click the promotion one because it was already set up, and then just copy and paste my information for that promotion. It would go a lot faster rather than trying to put one together every single time just for promotion or the other thing that MailChimp does, I think it's nice, is you can replicate an email once you have one designed. Have you ever used that?
Yeah.
And I think we tend to get a little lazy when we've done one and it's done well. You can hit replicate when you go in there, and it'll pull it up and basically copy that email, and then you can make your changes or update your dates or whatever. So if you send a monthly email newsletter out, that's an easy way to just kind of update your information on there. Okay, this is a few things of what you can do. If I am missing anything on this list and you're a user, or even if you're not, if you've read something about it, please add to it. So you can send mass emails to different audiences, and those are lists that you set up to receive the email. Another thing I really, really like is you can have one list, or you can have several lists that break it down, because I really like to target my audience. So for instance, I like to have customers, I like to have prospects, I like to have media, maybe even. You could have your different lists, and then when you could set up templates just for those lists, and then when you go to send that email newsletter. So for instance, I used to run this a few years ago for a credit union, and they had an electronic newsletter that went out to all their members. Then they had an electronic newsletter that went out to children, based on the children who had kids accounts with them. So that was completely different. Then there was a senior citizen group of account holders that we would have a separate email list for them. So those email templates would be developed into the platform, and then each month or quarter, actually I think I did them quarterly, because there was a lot of email newsletters going back and forth. But so when I needed to do the one for the whole company, for all the membership, they would get this one with all the information, what mortgage rates are, you need a car loan, you need, this. And then for the children's one, it was very specific, very simple, and it had maybe a kid's game on it. We would list the kids' birthdays for that month. Just maybe do a little giveaway. If you're doing a promotion, this is a little tidbit that I like to do for promotions, is I like to make it in the little template square almost look like it's a ... like it almost something you would cut out versus just a square, with lines. So it almost looks like someone has to cut a coupon out, but they don't have to. But if you're running a special promotion, I actually like to put a code with that and say, if you want this 15% off, then mention code and make up your own code, whatever, it could, if it's for the credit union, for instance, it could have been like CU 2017. And so that then I would inform anybody on the phones or anybody coming in. If somebody came in and said, I want to take advantage of this promotion and my code is CU 2017, I would track all that for the physical people who came in and actually purchased or bought that product, and I would know it came only from that newsletter. So that's a great way to keep track and to know. It's not an analytic that comes up, because that's people maybe having to call or come in to do it, but it's a really good way. And that's just something I enjoy doing. You don't have to do the ... if you don't want to, but there are ways to do that in MailChimp. But having that special code, people like that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you something else that surprises me is if you ever do put something on there for people to print out and bring it in, I am shocked at how many people actually will do that. Has anybody else had good luck with that or experience with that? I mean, we think we live in an electronic world, but there's still people who will print that newsletter out and they'll cut things out of it and bring it in. I'm shocked at how often that will happen. And sometimes I would do it just as a test, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, we got 50 of these back, and it was shocking. But anyway, back to what we can do. You can increase branding for your company or your organization. You can sell items. You can put news out there, announcements, promotions of a certain product, or maybe maybe somebody has a Christmas promotion coming up. You are narrowing it down right now to your time limit. Yes, sir.
So you can sell items. Is that basically equate to you can put like buttons in the email?
Yes. So MailChimp now has an option. It's not just for news, but it also has a selling option in there. We're not going to talk about it a lot today, but are you on MailChimp now?
I have an account, yeah.
So when you open your account, I think it has like 3 categories of what do you want to do, basically. You send out a newsletter, do a selling promotion, a product, and the other one I think is create a landing page for your website. So, and has anybody ever done that in MailChimp? So that's another kind of a new thing that they offer, which is great, because we used to have to use a separate design program to do landing pages, and now you can do it right there in MailChimp. So it gives you some great options.
Are those options available only through the paid account?
Nope, not at all, not at all. That's the beauty of it. It's you're looking for a trick, aren't you? You're like, okay, like. The other thing is you target your demographics. This is what I was talking about with my list. I like to have multiple lists to really target things down. So in addition to having your big, giant, maybe main list, you might just target customers that you know like a certain product even. I'm trying to think of something with the farmer's market that you could, so you do farmer's market and you have alpacas. You could have an alpaca list for people that you know that just buy those products, and then you could have one for the generic farm product.
Yeah, right now we have a customer list for the farmer's market, but I'm going to set it up also for the vendors, so I can track
Vendors.
emails.
Yeah.
Who opened it.
Yeah.
So a question about the list, and maybe you're going to get into that in a little
Maybe I am.
more, but, so, with Constant Contact, we had like this one main list, and then you could add people, then you could segment it, into.
As you're getting ready to send it, you mean?
Right, decide who you want it, or you could go ahead and segment it based on, those demographics that you're wanting to send to. So, we have lots of these different people that we send our different pieces to. So, are you saying that instead of having one big list and then segmenting them as you need it, go ahead and just set up the particular list for...
That's how I prefer to do it.
Yeah.
It may not be your preferred method. So I have a marketing background. I've been doing marketing for 25 years. So this is just kind of how I have learned to do it. The other thing, and Kyle and I were kind of talking about these lists before we started going into this too. When you go, the first thing you really have to do before you do anything is start setting up your email lists. And it's probably the most important aspect of this, because if you don't get your lists right, no one's going to open it, and they're not really going to get to the right people. So what I like to do, of course it depends on the company. So like with the credit union, for instance, that gives me the best example, is to have all the membership in one, and then to have the children's accounts, the senior accounts, and then maybe employees or something, you know, that we would do an employee newsletter with. But you would not, so some could overlap, and you have to be very cautious of that, because it will not tell you. You can have the same person on multiple lists, but you can't have the same person on the same list, because it'll default to you.
It doesn't, if you send to 5 different lists, it doesn't take out duplicates?
No, not to my knowledge. Does anybody know anything different on that?
It doesn't. If you put it on the same email on the same list, it'll tell you that, oh, we're already on your list.
Right.
But if you have, because I have different lists in my different,
It allows you to send it multiple times, doesn't it? Which is a
a
flaw in my mind, that you have to be so conscientious of what lists people are on and not to duplicate.
Because constant contact will delete those duplicates.
Yeah, to my knowledge, they don't do it, and Jennifer's backing that up, so I'll pay her later on that. But no, I think it's a little bit of a flaw. It makes us have to think of how we want to market it correctly, and but on their end of it, they don't know. You know, if you're sending the list out, they don't know. Maybe you want it to go to some people, but as a recipient, it's very, as you know, to get the same email from the same company more than once. And I always feel a little bit annoyed, like, oh, they don't know me, they've already sent that to me. Well, come on, you know, they don't, you know, Land's End doesn't know that they've sent it to me twice. But so that's something you're going to have to be conscientious of. If you want to keep it really simple, just do one big giant list. But if you do start wanting to target, or you have a product that you know could go just to this group of people, you know, like your alpacas, that's exactly what I would work on. That's where you really get into marketing versus just pushing a button and sending it out to everybody. If you really, I think you get return on your investment, because you've taken the time to target that email. Tanya?
So one of the problems that I kind of ran into is can you send 2 different lists to the same group? I couldn't choose, and maybe I just haven't played with it enough.
Wait, I don't understand.
Okay,
Help
so
me.
when you're getting ready to send it,
Okay.
so you have a list.
Yeah.
You have several lists. Can you pick 2 of those lists?
I think you can only do one at a time.
Yeah, okay. I want to make sure that,
And-
but then you have to resend it again to another
You
list.
can actually take the one that you just sent, give it a few minutes to send, and then you can go in and replicate it.
Okay.
Yeah, or
You can't
refresh.
do 2 lists at one time. Okay.
No, but I do think there's a reason for that, because then it becomes a separate campaign, and you can track that campaign to that list. You see what I'm saying? Rather than just sending it, because this is all about tracking on the back end, and making sure it gets in the right hands. So that's a very good question, but and I'm glad Jennifer's here, because I didn't think you could, but
Yeah, I tried for a long time.
I'm gonna make this happen.
Can you import lists?
Yes. So if you have a list, you have to just put it in an Excel file, and it'll tell you when you go to set it up what format to put it in. You know, they don't need a lot of information, but I will recommend this, no matter what kind of company or organization you are: first name, last name, email address, of course, and I like to capture the name of the company or the organization that they work for. And even if you think, well, I don't need that because it's, you know, city stuff or whatever, you'd be surprised that you might be able to go and sort and look and pull out and make another list out of something, because you may end up having a whole lot of people in a certain industry, like banking or something, that you may want to target for something. or tourism. And so I think it's really important. Now, if you don't have all of that information, you can still put them on the list. You just, but I try to get as much information as possible, those being the minimum, and then that's really all you need. Isn't that right, Jennifer? Because you don't put a phone number or anything in here. There's no place for that. But I do like to capture the name of their company, and it's whenever I've gone in and tried to clean up somebody's MailChimp accounts for a company, and they haven't captured that information, and it just becomes kind of a mess. It's hard to go in and put that information. You'd be surprised how after you get working, maybe you'll use it for 2 or 3 years, and then you'll think of another way to use it, or it'll come out with a different component to MailChimp, and you'll wish that you had the companies in there. I used to do this MailChimp newsletter for a nonprofit organization. It was a Christian and faith-based women organization, and they were only putting in the information, just the first, last name, and email address. Well, I had all these women, like, I was probably about 700 women on this list, and I had no idea where any of them worked unless it happened to be in their email address. And I'm like, this is a shame that we don't know what industry that these people are coming from. And so, capture that information if you can. If somebody gives you a business card, and we just had a little bit of this conversation, then you've got that information right in front of you, and it takes 2 seconds to put in, where they work. I mean, I highly recommend it, even if you're not using it now.
Hey, Cindy, can you group them as you develop that list, and also add another place where you can flag them and put them in a group? It could be new knowledge group. It could be they're in your master list.
I don't know of that right now. Jennifer, do you or anybody who's using this now? I don't think you can do that yet, but those are things that they've been, and I've been playing and using MailChimp and other platforms since about 2006, and they have really come a long way since then, just with the options. So Sandy, that might be something that they do. But you can, I think when you, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, when you sort your list, can you sort by company, or can you only sort by last name or email?
I understand it
alphabetically. So you can't sort by the company name then. But if you start a list and you've got 500 people on it and you want to pull all the banking people out of there, it takes a little bit of manual work, but it's still not that hard. You can go down the list, it's going to be there. If you don't have it, that's a lot worse than having it. Okay, tracking emails. This is the most important thing because, well, okay. I'll say that a lot, probably the most important thing, so you figure out what's most important to you. But I like to track everything that I do. I like to know that there's value put into what you're doing. If you're taking time to send out emails, form lists, you want to be able to look and see who's opened it. And I tell you, I still get like a little excited if I see someone shared something or gone. Sometimes if someone's gone back to the email several times, maybe they opened it, then they had to go back to work, and then they opened it again, and then they read, if you see someone has clicked on it 5, 6, 7, 8 times, you realize they've got an interest in something in that newsletter, and you've got that information that they did that. You can even see what time they opened it, and so there's a lot of demographics that you can pull from this. So make sure that you do get really familiar with the analytics aspect of it. It'll also help you with maybe knowing not only who opened it, but when they opened it, so that you can think, well, maybe I should start timing my emails to go out at this certain time, because it seems like most people kind of looked at it then. Do you find that at all, or do you?
Yeah, when I first started using MailChimp, I was seeing it like regularly, and it kind of helped me decide when I needed to send out for MailChimp, and what I needed to put in MailChimp.
Yeah, and there's a group of people out there that as soon as you send an email, they'll click on it. So as soon as you send that email out to say you've got a list with 500 people on it, you see a lot of activity right away. And then there's the whole group of people who don't look at it for a couple of days. I'm the one who's going to open it and probably look at it right away, because I decide in about 2 seconds whether I'm going to read it or delete it or throw it into a folder. And because I rarely leave anything up. And, but, so you got those different people that read them later, and then, so anyway, you guys have to decide how you want to do it. It works best for you. What works best for Jennifer's group may not work good for yours. Yes, sir?
In the lists where you input your emails and people's contact info, is there a way that you can add custom fields to that information?
No, not that I know of. It's very straightforward. It is in, we'll pull it up in a minute because I'm going to show you a little video. So we've already talked about the analytics, but that's my most exciting. Kathy?
So if somebody unsubscribes, does it notify you?
Yes.
Or does it just unsubscribe?
Yes, and we're going to talk about the spam aspect of the thing and the unsubscribe a little bit, because by law you have to have unsubscribe on there. It automatically puts it on there. Somebody unsubscribes, you get notice that they unsubscribed, and then you can take it personally if you want, or you can just go, oh well, whatever. I like go, but also I'm curious, did it come at a bad time, or were they just clicking? I mean, I don't contact them obviously, but still, it's kind of like, why did they unsubscribe? Especially if I know that person, and I might know that this actually would be something that they would like. There's just, I know too much, and I try to get.
Just a way to customize their unsubscribe message also, that you could do like a little 5-check survey, like, well, hey, was it slow response?
Was it me?
I actually unsubscribed something this morning.
It was you?
And there was, before it would submit the unsubscribe, there was 5 questions, like, do you get too many emails from me?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a MailChimp thing.
I don't
Does
think
anybody?
that's a MailChimp.
Oh, okay.
Jennifer, do you know? Because I've never gotten into that, but I always say I get too many emails because I unsubscribed from something yesterday because they were emailing me every single day for a product that I bought for somebody else that I don't even. It was a gift, and it was a company who does horses. I don't have any horses, but I bought this gift for somebody. Enough already, and so I did put. You're sending me too many emails.
I started getting 2 a day from an organization, and I'm like, yeah, this is too.
And that's another thing, to be very, very conscientious of that. We all get so many emails, and I find less is more. If you don't really inundate people, they're going to be more likely to open up your newsletter or open up your promotion and actually look at it. Where if you're sending something constantly and just annoying them, you're going to be like, forget it, and you're going to unsubscribe.
Also with unsubscribe, you have to be careful, because if you was to get it, like say for me, and then you forwarded it, the whole new thing that I send with all the new knowledge in it, if you forward it to somebody and they unsubscribe from that MailChimp, that unsubscribes you, the user, not them.
Okay, Jennifer, do you want to say that again? She just took me down a rabbit hole, but it's a good.
Miss Sandy, the MailChimp thing where I send all of these.
So you forwarded it to Sandy?
No, I sent it to her through my MailChimp.
Gotcha.
I sent it to her. But say she said, oh, I'm just going to send this out into a group email and forward it out. Well, if she does that, and say one of the people that she forwards it to unsubscribes, that's unsubscribing Sandy, not them.
Even though they didn't subscribe to begin with.
Exactly.
But they get confused about that.
Yeah. Because that has.
And we're saying they, because no one would unsubscribe from Sandy.
Exactly, nobody unsubscribes.
Because that email, that MailChimp sends attached to that email address. That's how they do the inside.
That has.
Right, okay, that makes total sense, yeah. Anybody ever had that happen? You have. Well, sorry. That is one of those things, I mean, let's face it, we can't control what other people do, right?
Can I just make a comment about unsubscribe stuff, and if you're selling products and some of the content marketing, it's probably a good idea to even back up a little bit and map out some timing for like the touch points that you want to have with your client or your audience. So like you have a sale, with Black Friday, you're going to ramp up your communication in November, so you may not want to like overdo it in October, you know, so
True.
really thinking through like a marketing plan, given the audiences and the products that you're trying to sell, and then timing.
That is
timing
so
those.
important. I'm so glad you brought that up. So that all has to do with having like a marketing calendar, which I'm really big on. So if you know something's coming up, or Christmas, or something's, you know, really big with the alpaca industry, you know, you want to make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row so that you don't hit them too hard a certain time. But also, this is another point, when we were just talking about, and I've done this before, if you have people that you notice who click on your content quite a bit and always open it, you could actually do another list and keep them on a list that, and say, you know, like, you know, favorites or something like that, where you know these people are loyal customers, or, you know, and just send them little announcements or promotions once in a while just for them. So it's kind of a nice way for a small business to give somebody something. Even though you may not actually have any proof that they've ever purchased anything, the fact that they have some interest in it might kick them over the, you know, the edge to actually go and make that purchase. So keep that in mind too when you're looking at your analytics, that you can actually use that to your advantage to make sure that you know, maybe you want to convert them to a customer versus just someone who's clicking, and that might be a way to do it. Do you have a question? Just a thought. I think I lost mine. Oh, here we go. It's not coming. That's weird. Jennifer, why is my screen not showing?
I think it's that new version of PowerPoint plates.
Okay. So maybe we can't show our video then. I don't know. It's actually just on the MailChimp website, and I was just going to show you the real quick go through, because they do a really neat thing about setting up the list. Can you do that? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I should have tested it. Any other comments, or while we're doing this, or comments, concerns, or input from people who have been there, done that? Yes.
So, question. So, Round Mountain, we're, you know, a membership organization, and we get members, new members all the time, and
so you do pay a fee to be a member. Okay.
Right. So, people can become members any time of the year. So what I've been doing in the past with Constant Contact is every time I get ready to send out a mailing to our artisan members, not the agritourism members, just the artisan members, I will update, I will upload a new list, because it's dynamic on our website, so I can download a list of all the current members, and then I would upload them, or whichever way it is, download.
Yeah.
Upload it to Constant Contact, so I would have the most current list of members.
Gotcha. That's great.
So I guess I'd be doing the same thing, and then I would delete the old list. That's just members, because I didn't need them anymore, because this was the updated list.
And that way you don't have to go through each one. Okay, that's a great
But somebody
lesson.
said to me that if I do that, then I'm going to lose some of the tracking on that list.
That list.
Units. But I don't necessarily care for the kind of content that I'm sending to them.
Yes, because when you delete a list, you delete the history of that.
Yeah.
Would you ever want to, this might do too much, because then you probably push you into a paid account too, if you kept the list and named it, you know, something. So do you do this every month or quarterly?
Ideally, my members would like to hear from me monthly, but you don't, do you? It's usually.
What's your goal? Quarterly?
Monthly. Thanks. Sandy's a board member, so she better not say monthly too, unless she wants.
She's distracted. I've got her distracted right now. So
yeah.
If it doesn't work, it's no big deal. Yeah, we'll just go on.
All right, look back. Kevin, deleted turned off you're going to be in this for a few minutes?
Yeah. And then we'll go back to the PowerPoint, but is that gonna be a problem? This is new technology, by the way, just, I'm the first one to use it, so I feel
Brand
honored.
spanking new.
The, okay.
We waited till Sandy moved out before we went ahead and put this on.
Oh, I can see that, yeah. The, okay, so, before you start, this is just a real simple, and you could go into your knowledge base when you get your MailChimp account and read all this. I'm not going to, I wanted to show you more of the, how, what they show you on here. So, they tell you, which I totally agree, is when you, the most important thing, and first thing, I don't know if you can see that very good, is to set up your list. And so here's all you have, oh, it's going to go back in a minute. This is all the data you need for your list. It's really simple. You don't need to get a whole lot of information. You don't need their blood type and firstborn name and all that kind of stuff. It's really simple.
Is there supposed to be sound on that video?
No,
Oh.
it's you'll be pulling it up on your computer and when you go to look at it. So you name your list and then how many subscribers you have on that list, and that's how you track that particular list. Now these are big ones, obviously, but you can see that 59% of the people from that one list that they've got there open up their emails, and you may want a lot better than that, but yeah, that's what they're using. But they had 22,000 people on that list. So that's massive. But when you go in here to play around and make up your list and stuff, don't be afraid. No one's really going to see anything. You had kind of talked about being afraid and pulling the trigger and stuff. You go in there and play with it and make sure it's the way you want it, and nobody sees it.
You can send yourself a test page too.
Yes.
I like that.
Before it ships.
And you can share it with a friend in that test.
That is really important. Again, I'm going to say that's the most important thing. No, I'm just kidding. But it is extremely important. I do have it on my PowerPoint to always send a test email to yourself. And if you have a friend, you may not have a friend, but if you have,
I'll be your friend.
it's nice with everything with marketing to have another set of eyes, especially if you've written something, because how many times do we write something and we know what it's supposed to say, so when we're even proofreading it, we may not read it the way it actually comes across. I do it all the time where I'll put you instead of your, or just simple things, but I meant the other. And so if you do have someone who's knowledgeable and who will read it, one of the most annoying things is when I used to work for a big company in Knoxville, and I'd say, can I send this to you? And I would want, because it was a lot of financial information, and I would want 2 or 3 sets of eyes on different components of it to make sure this article is correct, or and they wouldn't really read it. They would just, oh, looks good. Well, no, actually find someone who will read it.
Something I went just like a step beyond that, because I was kind of afraid too about sending out that first one and not knowing exactly what it looked like when it went out live.
And it looks different when you click the button and get it in the email, because your browser makes it look a little different, and my browser may be different from yours, and so there's a lot of fear. And I'll tell you, I used Exact Target for a number of years with a company, and for some reason it was not compatible at all with a lot of the browsers, and it would take things and like mix it up, like put words on top of each other we'd send the test, it would look okay, and then we'd send it again, and we'd start getting phone calls from people and say, what did you just send out, so that was Exact Target, and that was several years ago. I don't know if they've improved their product or not, but boy, that was a mess, let me tell you. Nothing like pulling that trigger and then having it all like be an explosion. So you create your list. Does anybody have a sign-up form on their website? You do. Okay. So if you have a sign-up form, And if you do have a website, I recommend that you do have this type of landing page on it. So if someone goes to your website and they like your website and they're interested in your product or your service, give them an opportunity to sign up for their newsletter. Always, always, always. And this is they allow you to do that through MailChimp. And they'll customize it for you. And it's pretty easy. And all they got to do is just put in their information. Obviously, don't ask for a ton of information. People tend not to want to, fill out lengthy forms. Nobody does, and nobody got time for that. We got to get going with stuff. Okay, so now you've got your list, and now we're going to create your campaign. And your campaign is the same thing as an email. So this is going to kind of jump through it, and again, I can't really see this very well, but when you go in and I encourage you to go to knowledge base, and even if you've used this a few times, if you're kind of new at it, this is where you will refer back to. But this is where you get your reports, and you can send out. These reports are pretty awesome. I'm kind of it tells you the number of clicks, the number of opens, the number of subscribers on that. I mean, it gives you so much information that, and you don't have to know the exact numbers or see them. I think they're a little bit blurry on here for some reason. But but be sure to look at this and get to know, be familiar with these reports that you can pull from each of these lists and each of these emails that you sent out. Anybody have any questions on the analytics part? Sorry.
No,
I didn't.
Basically, I was wondering, can you track, I know that you can track if someone clicks on a link in that email and goes to your website. Can you further track if they click a specific buy this product button, and then of the people that clicked on that product button to buy it, how many went through the entire process and actually made payment?
But that's taking you to your, if they jump off the page and go to your website, then that becomes.
Then I've got Google Analytics.
Yeah, then you've got to. Then that's your problem. That's not MailChimp's problem.
Right, but then how will I know the success of this email campaign?
If it drove you to your website, then I would say that's the success of it, as far as, because you can look and see the clicks or the shares, and I mean, you can't, it's not an exact science. You're not going to be able to narrow it down and say, we cured cancer with this, but you can, it definitely help you know people are clicking on it, people are interested in this. That's more of when you say, Jennifer, of finding the interest. And you have a great product and a great, the same kind of thing. Same way with the farmer's market. And I'm really drawn to the alpaca things over there, because I have a daughter who's like all into alpacas and wants to get alpacas and stuff. So they.
You got some for sale?
Absolutely.
Well, she lives in Milwaukee, so that in a city right now. She wants mom to get the alpaca.
So you can get a couple forms.
Yeah,
He delivers.
I got 3 acres. They can live with my chickens, right? She's come home for Christmas. She'd like that. But I thought I would just buy her a scarf or something, or.
We struggle with this too, because we've just started some digital campaigns for us on social media. Are they actually going to our website? And so I think Google Analytics, you can see some of that, they came through Facebook and stuff. But one thing we've added on the purchasing side, or when they get to a vendor, is how do you hear about us? Yeah, and whether they fill that out or not.
Can you make that a mandatory field?
Yeah, we have
With a little drop box or something to make it easy?
Yeah, so we're trying to capture it on both ways, but again, still.
Also, your website analytics should capture. Your website analytics should capture where somebody came from, so that would be able to know that it came from MailChimp, and how many people came from that way, and what their process was.
Right. So that information will overlap with MailChimp's information. That number should be identical, because every time you click on a link in your email, MailChimp says, "Hey, somebody click on your link and went to your website."
Should be. I mean, in that perfect world we live in. Yeah. They,
Yeah, as long as Google-
sometimes you'll pull up the analytics and they're not the same. I'm gonna tell you, don't like stress about a couple of clicks that might be a little different. But it's, it is a science, and I do encourage you to utilize it, but don't worry about it too much, you know. Make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're getting results. Whether the results are clicks or whether they're actual purchases, or I love the fact that you have that form saying, you know, how did you hear about us? And when you set up things like that, if there's a way to make the important things like that a mandatory field, that's...
Yeah, it's good. I don't think we've done that, so.
Check and see if you can do that, because if you can do that and do a drop down, or you got to make it easy. You don't want to put, how did you hear about us? And it has to be 200 words or less, you know, I mean, no one's going to do that. But if you could drop something down and say from a friend, from Google, for, you know, whatever, and just click, 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 and then, but I am one of those proponents that if I'm going to actually look at something and track it, I want it to be a mandatory field. And, you know, like if somebody's doing something like that, their email address has to be a mandatory field, obviously. You know, the rest of the stuff could be, maybe not so much. Okay, let's look at the, so when you do your campaigns, let me see if I can sign in. I wanted to show you something off mine. Is it okay if I log into MailChimp? Just, I did some like test. I did just some test things for this class just to kind of see, to show you some things. No. Okay, and my password's wrong. Okay, this may not work. Okay, it's not letting me sign in for some reason. So we won't be doing that. How do I get back to my PowerPoint?
Just to go down and open up PowerPoint again on the, like you're starting over at the start.
So I just, oh, okay. It's at the start menu.
Just go down.
Here it is. Right here. Can I do this? Open.
Yeah, close that. Go to browse.
Where's browse?
The bottom.
Here?
No,
Bottom of the word.
Right here. I'm sorry, I can't see
See,
it.
open at the top.
Oh, right there.
How did you,
Here, you drive. I'll drive. I'm a better backseat driver anyway. But what I was just going to show you that setting up the campaign and just, you know, kind of going in. I'm not going to go into anyway, even if we could pull that up, a lot of detail, because
I think it's 6, 5 or 6.
Because there's too much information to give to you
There.
in a class like this.
That one.
5. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so here. Thank you. Okay, so this is just a really small example of some of the templates that you can do. But the templates can be as elaborate as you want it to be. They can be real simple. They can be, you know, real fancy. But, you know, anybody can set this up with their graphics and their logo and stuff. And what's nice about that is it costs you nothing. And when somebody opens that, it's a very professional looking, well-designed email. So, you know, you've got the kind that have the different blocks And so, you know, you have to look at what's best for you. And at the beginning of this, we kind of talked about setting up different templates for maybe promotions or one for a newsletter. And if you take the time to go ahead and set just the basic template up, and then you can just pop in. And I'll tell you another marketing thing that I like to do. If you are going to do a newsletter, and then you're going to actually have promotions every once in a while, I would suggest that you come up with that design for that newsletter and stick with that design. And that way you're not switching it up every month or quarter or whenever you send it out, because people will get used to that look and that brand for yourself. Establish that brand and stick with that. Now, if you want to change it after a year or so, that's one thing, but I would not switch it up every month. I would stick to that same look and feel and consistency. That being said, if you end up doing something like this and you decide I want to do a gray background, or, you know, stay consistent. Even when you do a promotion, try to stick with that gray background or that light blue background or whatever goes with your logo or your look. That way, someone can just open it and instantly know it's from you because of the look and the feel. And what I don't like to see, and I see this often, is people who say, well, this month I'm going to mix it up and I'm going to do this and it's going to look completely different. Well, don't do that, because that's taken away from your brand with stuff. Now, when you were talking about your use for it, possibly having a list for publishers and a list for authors to send out to you, you may have a little bit of a different look and feel for those two markets because they're different for the most part, but you wouldn't want to go too far away from what your actual brand is. But you could definitely mix it up a little bit. Do you have a logo?
I do.
Say, and then keep your color scheme with that. But because they're kind of different audiences. So when you set up your campaign, you've already set up your list or lists. The first thing they ask you is who's going to receive this. I mean, it's the first thing out of the box that it says, what list are you going to send this to? And so you have to know when you're sitting down to set up this email who that's going to. So you click that, you choose your template, you upload your logos, you add your text, stories, promotions, etc. I spent last night, I wasn't able to pull it up, but last night it took me about 8 minutes to set up an email that I was going to show you guys that this is how quick you can set one up. Now, it wasn't perfected or as pretty as it needed to be. I didn't play with the header. So the header is your top portion that you can put your logo in, but you also want to make sure if you're doing, especially a newsletter, that you put, January 2018, you put when it goes out. If it's your, if you only do it quarterly, you would put, what's the word I'm looking for? It's, I'm thinking of episode. I'm on a TV show. But what would be the term? You would put publication number, quarterly publication,
Volume.
Volume. Thank you. What? Of course, it's Sandy. Now I'll never live this down. But all I can think was episode. I'm not on TVs, but you would put volume 1 and first quarter 2018, for instance, on there. And why you do that is it just tracks everything, and people know. They may refer back to some of these for something, and they'll say, I know it was first quarter. They want to look back. It's also great for you because when you go to categorize and you keep these, you can go back and look and know what you sent out and when you sent it out exactly. So be sure to do that. And on your header, you can keep that header pretty consistent with your logo, and then work into however you want it. Again, when you design your template, you can do it based on that. Once you add a logo or photos and things, it actually goes into the library in MailChimp that you can use it again. So when you're using something consistently, you don't have to download it every single time. It'll be in your library, and you can just go in there and click, oh, I know I need that photo again from such and such, and you just click on that. It makes it real easy. They used to not do that. You used to have to download everything.
Constant Contact, you have to upload it to the library before you can put it into your campaign. So
Yeah, you
I
have to-
like the-
You can do it either way, because if it's, sometimes I forget if I have a big library, if something's in there and I'll download it and it'll be in there twice, which is no big deal, but if I'm using something all the time, sometimes it's nice, especially when you send electronically, you could actually put a button that says like click here for something, and when you attach that photo to a link, which is something you could do on here, they could click on that and go to your website and make a purchase, and when you do that, you may use that click here button all the time and want to have access to it. And that's another thing that MailChimp will allow you to do, is when you take a photo, and this is, okay, let me back up just a little bit. And when you put your logo in the top of your header, or if you use your logo anywhere on that page, make sure you connect that logo to your website. So if someone hovers over it or clicks on it, it's going to take them right to the website. Do not miss an opportunity for someone to be driven to your website. So anytime you use your logo, or what else would you recommend? Do you have any recommendations, or Jennifer?
I was just going to ask a question about that. So does that open up, if you click on the logo, connect it to your website, does that open up a new page?
It's only if you actually have the allowance to do that. So say I've got my logo at the top, and you come along and you click on my logo, it could open a new page if, when I set it up, that's how I set it up. So on the back end of MailChimp, when you want to connect a link, www. Whatever it is, to that logo, and you marry them together, it'll ask you, do you want to open up a new window or not? I usually say yes. What do you do? I don't know why I do that. I think it's just habit. I always just say yes. Well, mainly because I don't want them to leave my page, and there's nothing more annoying than having to get back to a page. You have your hand up?
Yeah, and a lot of times too, like if I receive an email, it doesn't matter how you set it up. If I open it up in Gmail, which is what I use, then it's going to open up a new page, regardless of what you type.
Well, yes, and then that's another thing with MailChimp, is that whenever I read someone's email that I'm interested in, I always view it in my browser. And there's a little button at the top that automatically comes up with MailChimp. So you already have it opened up, and you can see it if it's something that I'm interested in, or I really want to read that whole document. I don't read it in my Gmail, but yeah, that's something Gmail does do.
I was just going to, anything I put on my website or in an email or anywhere, especially if it goes away from my website or away from my email, I want to open up in a new window, because there's a chance they're going to click on something and completely forget how where they're at now.
Right, and who wants to go back.
Windows, like, oh yeah, here's that email.
Yeah, so yes.
It can be brought back to you.
Yeah, and I also add, like if I need someone to get a form, then you can do that as well. Click here and attach a PDF.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of great uses for it. Did you have a question, Jennifer, or
I
a
just
statement?
when I send mine out, where you go to the VA Startup website and register, I just link all the flyers to the VA Startup website.
Oh, that's good.
You click on it and you can go to the VA Startup site and register.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It makes it easier for them.
What I would do too, in any email I send out, and I think I would do this almost without exception, I can't think of an exception, any imagery you put in there just to make your email look nice.
Yes.
What that image is of, or what the context is, I would link every image to my website. Because if you get to the website, then it's like you were saying with analytics, it's your website's job
Yes.
to get them interested in what's there, and then get to purchase.
Yeah. It's one thing I see all the time, though, is why I mentioned it with the logo. I get emails all the time because I sign up for different companies, and they fail to attach their website to their logo. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's a marketing opportunity. And if I had one the other day that when I went through and read the whole promotion, and then I was like, well, there's no website on here. There's no way for me to go to their website and find out more. I mean, they were taking the time to send out these nice promotional newsletters, by email, but I had no way of getting to their, I actually sent them a note and said, hey, you might want to think about doing this, because it was like, hey, you're missing opportunities. Don't miss these opportunities. If I'm going to open it up, I'm going to probably click and go to your, and look around. So make it easier for people, and also have your website on there. In addition to, somewhere on there, maybe put it in your header, have it included. And, if you want to do a real professional kind of header, either design it here, or if you know someone who does graphic design, ask them to design it for you. That's okay too, because you want it to look, it's your foot forward. That's what's going to make someone open it. Yes?
And this is just general marketing, you all probably already know this, but anytime you send out anything, if the goal is to make a statement, no matter how far removed it is, or get them to the website, whatever you want the email to accomplish, add call to action buttons in that email. Put several in there, like click now to do whatever.
That's right. And the subject line can make a difference too, whether someone will open something too. And that's one thing that is kind of cool. It's another thing that's cool about MailChimp is they actually let you test your subject line. Just, you can put a subject in there and they kind of run it through and see if they like it or not. And it'll come back and say thumbs up, thumbs down, or maybe try something different. Don't be boring with your subject lines. Make it something that somebody might want to open. Make sure you add your social media links. At the bottom of each one, it'll already have, like Twitter, Facebook. What's the other one? Is Instagram on there? And if you don't have any of those, you can actually delete it off from there and then put your link to your Facebook or whatever on there and leave those icons down there so people can click on those and go right to your Facebook page. Everybody should have a Facebook page. Everybody in this room, if you run a business or work for a business, you should have a Facebook page. You don't necessarily have to have the others, but that is the one that now they are saying 100%. There's no reason not to have one. Send a test email. We talked about that. And to a trusted friend, if possible. If you consider Sandy your trusted friend, okay, that's fine. But, make sure there's someone who's going to look at it too, and not just like I used to have people just go, oh yeah, it looks fine, and then a glaring typo would be in it. The other thing that's nice is you can set up your email to send it right now, or you can send it later if you want. That's always a nice option. You're going on vacation, or you want to send it over the weekend, and you don't want to have to log in. Or, just set it up, and you can put the time and the date and send it at a later date. I think that's a real convenience, and that's something that we all like, that convenience now.
Does MailChimp tell you when the optimal time for your industry?
I don't think so. Jennifer just walked out the room. She's my
I haven't seen it.
I've never seen that, but you might be able to Google that.
The Constant Contact does that.
See.
Yeah.
That's what you're paying for.
That's right.
You can Google that for free.
Exactly.
And that constantly changes too.
It does. That is a really good point. When the market changes and the time of year and everything. So I am not a huge proponent on sending everything at this time or making sure it's every Tuesday or whatever, because it does change constantly. And it also changes whatever market you're in. I've lived in 9 different states around the United States. My husband's retired Navy, and everywhere we've gone, and I've gone to work, what worked in New York is not going to necessarily work in Tennessee or in Florida or in South Carolina or Georgia or North Carolina or Virginia, Here we go, connecting your social media accounts, super, super important. You want recipients to go to your Facebook page too, even though, to kind of like your page. And so there's also, when you set up your templates, and if there's a block in there and your Facebook page is new, or you're looking for more likes or more followers, make sure you put a little thing in there, to go on there and like, and in addition to the icons at the bottom. Yeah, Tanya?
So once you put in your social media, you should save that with your logo and then your preferences to subscribe or unsubscribe. You should leave that definitely in the template every single time, because I sent my first one, and then when I went back in to send my second one, I had to re-enter all that information.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay.
So do I need to save that Is that?
Your unsubscribe and subscribe stuff is at the bottom automatically. That is something by law that they put on there, which is
But I had to enter
fabulous.
my information into that. And they required me to do that.
So were you sending a whole new template?
Probably, I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
So if I'd taken the template that I sent first and
And
just.
replicated it?
Okay.
This,
All right, that's it.
you're learning, yeah.
I'm a little slow.
Sure. No, I wouldn't say that. This is a learning thing. This is how you learn. And okay, so this is what we were talking about with the free. Up to 1,000 subscribers is free. It's $25 a month thereafter, or up to 35, I think, max. If anybody knows anything different, let me know. But that's the information that I could find on their page right now, which 35 a month is like nothing, really, when you think about it. That you could send endless emails. So very affordable. Okay. You can download your list. We talked about this a little bit because we've jumped all over the place, but that's okay. Or you can enter them manually. So, if you go to one thing I've used MailChimp a lot for in the past is going to trade shows or conferences where you have a booth and you're collecting business cards. And you take those back, and you may just want to have someone enter those manually. It goes by pretty quickly, and it doesn't take that long just to put a name, and if you got somebody who's kind of quick. Now, earlier in the class, we talked about there was a question about how do you know legally you can enter somebody in there if they've just entered to win something. There's it's kind of a fine line. With that, I mean, I from the, counter, I believe like if somebody puts their business card or they've given me their information, then I'm going to go ahead and load it in there. There is an anti-spam law, which I do have copied on here. This is the compliant. And you can actually Google this and look this up to make sure you're compliant. It mainly talks about commercial emails being different from relationship emails. Like so if I send you an email, that's going to be totally different, a personal email versus me sending you one from my company. And so they had to come up with this in 2003. So you think about how technology was in 2003. Wasn't great. And I don't even know if they've even updated this law at all. This was the latest one, but this is the one that I'm most familiar with, and this is the one that has kind of been drilled in my head. So this is the main part down here. You have to include a visible and operational unsubscribe option. That is law. That is one thing that MailChimp does for you. When you set up your template, it automatically at the bottom puts an unsubscribe in there. Now you have to go in and put your information like Tanya was saying, but once you do it and you replicate that email again, that's why I say set up those templates. Do a newsletter one, do a promotional one, or for whatever you are going to do, and they're forever in there. And then you don't have to redo this every single time you go to do it. Set them up, take the time to set them up and have them in there and just throw your information in. It'll make your emails go by so much faster when you have to do something. So that part MailChimp now does for you, basically. So you don't have to really do a whole lot of work except that one time put your information down there. This is something that's in the law that a lot of people aren't aware of. You have to have a physical address of your company at the bottom. Again, MailChimp gives you that line, and you'll see the line at the bottom with like asterisks and stuff like that. You just take that out and put your physical address in there. And it can be a P.O. box. I've seen that before, but by law, you're supposed to have something in there. Has anybody ever gotten an email from a company that doesn't have an unsubscribe? I have.
I've done it through this sale, through the Black Friday and so forth.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they are not compliant with this law. Now, I don't know if I could send a policeman over to their house and have them arrested or not, but you know what I mean? Like, to me, you do have to be respectful of this type of thing, and you don't want to get your company in any kind of trouble with that. But if I give you my business card and we meet for the first time and we shake hands, and then you take me back and put me in your database, I think that's a little different because we've had, you know, I might be totally wrong. Somebody else may have a different opinion, and I'll certainly entertain it. But I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to have the policeman come over to your place of business and arrest you because you put my business card in the you know, the anti-spam police, I should say. But you know, people feel differently about it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how we're approaching it, because we had some kind of internal debate about whether we could just drop everybody in from Salesforce into our.
I say yes, but I'm a Salesforce guru, so I believe that if they're in Salesforce, you can probably do it. However,
what we ended up with was, because of this law, because of the opt-in, we said, you know, if it was like you just said, if it was a handshake, we got their business card, then we assumed that it would be okay to add them.
So be careful who you shake hands with today.
Because a lot of the client information that we have in Salesforce did not, it came through as a loan. So them getting.
It came through as a transaction. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
So a transaction is the same thing as shaking hands with someone. So
yeah.
So I mean, we could debate this all day long, and if we had any lawyers in here, they would have maybe a different version of it. But
just for our comfort, we just said going forward, any business cards we would do, but we weren't going to retroactively add everybody from Salesforce or MailChimp.
And see, I would, but I live on the edge anyway. So
yeah,
the,
I got overruled, but I agree with you.
I'm like, you know, I'm just going to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. You know, that's just me. That's just, you know, I'm going to be compliant with the law the way to it, but that law is so. But that brings up another point when we were just talking about that, is when you go to sign someone up for MailChimp, it'll say this person gave me permission to put me on the list. So what do you think I check? Now, did I call you up and say, can I put you on my list? No, I didn't do that. But if you don't check it, I don't think it'll let you add it. I've never not checked it. Will it let you add?
I always check it.
You always check it too.
But you know, all of this is, this is why you should use MailChimp or one of these than using your email because you're protecting yourself. I mean,
yes,
MailChimp is forcing you to protect yourself to abide by the law.
Yes, and it used to not be as easy as it is now with the law and be compliant but you know, take advantage. You know, when you see the stuff at the bottom, that's all the legal stuff. Don't just wipe it out and think I can just send my email. You're laughing, but people do stuff like that. But there's a reason that's there, and they've got the legal jargon, and everything is set up for your protection.
One thing I was just going to say about this, and we decided to do was, so we have an info@roundthemountain.org.
Did you hear that plug?
Yeah. Roundthemountain.org. So we have that email address, and we use that for our constant contact.
Okay.
And so then I have my own personal email, so it kind of separates, you know, if I really need to send out an email to my members that I need to make sure.
You mean you personally?
Me personally.
Okay. Will you send it from your Gmail account or whatever?
I'll send it from my DWacker,
roundthemountain.org
account, because that's separate from the info@roundthemountain.org account. So
you just
I want to make sure that they're going to open this email. I don't do it through
MailChimp.
I do it just regular.
If it's just a few people too, and you've got them in a list.
Yeah. So, I mean, because, you know, sometimes when we used to do newsletters, you know, every 2 months, you know, people were saying, oh, we get too many emails.
I know, the people complain about that. Yeah. I'm like, don't open them, delete them.
So that's what kind of we decided to do, to try to get people to open emails that really were truly.
It's hard. That's why I say, don't do too many, and use a good subject line, you know? I mean, and you have to be creative sometimes with your subject lines to make people open it.
Well,
And-
and we've done the same thing, so like our lenders are really relationship based on how they interact with their clients. So we've kind of designed a nice looking email, but they send it from their personal or their working addresses to like.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Okay, let's talk about that for a second, because if you have a certain list of clients, let me see how to explain this. So, okay, I used to work for a big company in Knoxville, and when I would send out the MailChimp list, there's a lot of big companies that filter these things, and so some of the recipients may never receive it because it just their company sweeps it away and it just goes away, and they never get it in their box. But I would have all of my managers take my email and send it to their clients. And they would open it because it would be from their connection. They know that name, John Smith, and they would open that up versus coming from info at such and such if they're not familiar, or go into a spam filter. So that's another good point, and it's an extra step. But if you have a big mailing list, and like this was a pretty big company with like 200 people in it, and it was so it was worth it for me to send that email internally, to my management group, which was about 40 people, and say, will you take the time and send it to your individual people, and that way we make sure that we get it, especially when it was new. I mean, we were a big financial company, so it was real important. Sometimes there was legislation or news or tax deadlines or things that these business owners really did need to know, and if it went into their spam filter and they never saw it, it was better for it to come right from their manager. So that's it's an extra step, but if you work for a big company or you want to get it in front of somebody, you can't track that, but at least the email is designed and gone out. Does that make sense? Okay, so be sure you're familiar with this. Physical address and the from information and subject lines. You cannot harvest email addresses. But I think if you're anything that's considered transactional is which a handshake is transactional, somebody getting a loan from you, someone walking into your door and filling out your forms like we do here when we come into a class. So those are all transactional, and you pretty much give up your right. If you stop at my booth at a trade show, I'm probably going to sign you up for some type of mailing list too. So those people know that. They know that. Okay, did I go backwards? Yep. So here's your choices. There's tons of them out there, and this is just a few of them. You just have to choose what's best for you, for your budgeting and for your needs. The main reason I talk about MailChimp is because it's pretty much free, and it's pretty much supports every browser and system. And I've used Pardo, Emma, Zoho, and Marketing 360, which I got on there twice on here. But there's Constant Contact, there's Exact Target, I've used those. There's so many out there. Do your homework on what's best for you and your company and what your needs are. And that's it. Anybody, any questions?
All right, I have a really basic question.
Why did you wait to the end?
Well, I know, because I was waiting, I think you answered it. So.
Because I'm pretty basic. So.
So you create a template.
Yes.
Okay, because when I first went in and created a campaign.
Which is the same, your campaign is your email. It's the actual.
So that's the point, right?
Yeah.
So that's
very confusing.
Yeah. But your template, but you have to say, if you create a campaign, you have to save it as a template in order to save it over there in your little template.
I think your template actually becomes your campaign, doesn't it?
The campaign is encompassing the email itself, to who you're going to send it, the
Right.
schedule at which you're going to send it. It's all the information about the entire process of that email.
So the template is just the tool that
Yes.
you use to
And there's
create
so many of them
email.
out there, and that was why I said, you decide how you want to market your business or your organization and what you could possibly use this for. And you may have to go in and do some of the little courses on MailChimp, or you may want to email me or say, what do you think about this? Or Sandy knows a lot about this kind of stuff. Jennifer does, obviously, too. But, you know, if you say, okay, I'm just going to do a newsletter, I may do a promotion once in a while, and we may do a news alert. Let's say something's going on in this industry that people need to know about, and that needs to be a little bit more important than some of these other things. And it could go out at any given moment when something's going on. Set those templates up, and that's just a template at that point, and save them. And then when you go to do a campaign, the campaign, like he said, is the whole thing. It's actually going through the steps, loading the stuff up, and hitting that send button. And but figure out what your templates and what your priorities. They're going to be a little different for every company and organization. You will save yourself so much time. So like when I worked in Knoxville for that big company, we would have basically news alerts that they would come and say, you know, this tax legislation has changed, and all the businesses that would be affected by this will be in this category. So, you know, I had all these lists set up, and I'd have that template set up for the news alert and have it look really important too, so that when they knew when they got something like that, that it was pretty important and they had to open it. The other thing that you should be mindful of is so many people open up their email on their mobiles now. So there's also an option on MailChimp for you to view it as a mobile device or on a computer. And I encourage you to look at it in the different formats to make sure it looks okay. And even when you do a test, open it up in your phone too, just to make sure that it looks. They used to not be compatible with each other, and you used to actually have to physically make changes to make it look good on a mobile device, which I'm so glad we don't have to do that anymore. Now we can. Now it's supposed to be compatible with everything. But
Can I ask one more question?
no, I think your questions are done.
Exactly. Does anybody else have a question? So what is your stance on personalization of an email? Because you're going to put in, you know.
Oh, for the name?
Yes. Dear Sally.
Okay, I have a very different opinion of that than most people probably do. I don't like it. I don't ever put somebody's name in there, and the reason is because if their name is not what they are called, or if it's not spelled correctly, or if somehow somebody put it into the system a little bit different, then they're going to constantly get these emails that have their name spelled or something wrong on it, and there's nothing more offensive to someone to have their name misspelled. Or if my name is Cynthia, which it is, but I'm called Cindy, if I keep getting emails for Cynthia, I'm going to think my mom's yelling at me, you know. But those are just me. It's not, it's
No, it's everybody.
Is
Every
it?
time somebody spells my name with a K, I think, you don't know me well enough to call me.
Exactly. But it's just, again, you could probably look at studies. Sandy, do you have a different opinion on it?
No, I kind of agree that not to personalize it, because you could have.
You can err. And you may send out 5,000 emails and only 50 of them are incorrect. That's not so bad, but those 50 people you could lose as customers, and for something stupid like that, when the whole email could be something that pertains to them.
And you put a Mr. instead of a Mrs.
That happens a lot.
And just,
I see that a lot because someone may have a name that is, you know, if their name is Shannon, it could be a man, it could be a woman, you know, or I learned a long time ago with making mistakes on that behalf that I don't do that. Now, if you're talking about a list that has 10 people on it and it's for your vendors and you know them very well, that might, you know, that's different.
They'll let you know.
They will let you know if you know, but if you don't know those people, and you know, I go in and clean up lists all the time when I go into companies, and right away I see typos, and I know that name is spelled wrong. Why would you personalize this to me? So I think our name is one of the few things that, and I agree with Kathy. You know, like, you know, Kathy's with a C. Everybody, don't miss I have a sister that's Kathy with a C, and I'm very mindful of that. When I meet someone named Kathy or Kathleen or Catherine, I always say, is it a K or a C? And they look at me kind of funny, but it helps me visualize and know, because my sister, and I'm Cindy. Cindy's spelled with a C, you guys. How many people will spell Cindy with an S? I'm like, I've never seen that before, and it's not a sinful thing. It's well, maybe it should have been.
Or even like you'll RSVP to something, and you'll get there, and the name thing will have your name spelled wrong when you actually RSVP from your own email address, and it specifically goes C.
So you have to be careful with that. But again, use your own judgment on that in your list.
Around with that X or that mark out there.
Yeah. I just am really, I've had it happen where it's blown up in my face before, and it was a long time ago, and once it did, I'm like, oh, stay away from that.
If you are selling an item from your email, and you've got that call to action button, are those analytics going to measure that in some way for you?
Yes.
To know that you've made a sale?
Yes. When you go to set up your campaign, now that there is a promotional selling button on there, it gives you a whole different analytics of how many people looked at it, how many people, went through with the actual process and the transaction. And I believe it connects to some kind of pay. Does anybody have that on their or sent out an email like that? Because it has to give you a payment option, like connect with PayPal or Venmo or something like that. So there's a whole other step to that. And I've never done it, but I know people who do it, and it obviously has to connect with a payment form somehow. You've been a great class. I appreciate it, and I hope you learned a little bit. We couldn't get some things working, but it's a tip of the iceberg. This is a lot of stuff, and if you want to get any information, I'm happy to help you with anything. You can get my card. And it's Cindy with a C and a Y at the end. Very simple. Thank you, guys.
So the next class is December the 6th, and it is Adobe Pro. And who's doing that? Gina Patrick is going to be doing Adobe Pro on December the 6th, and thank you very much.